Good morning. Welcome to a next interview of the Sunnatru series. I have with me Awen of Primal Druidry. Good morning.
Good morning, Bran. We're pretty good to go on this topic, I feel like. So I'll let you take it away. I'll give a tiny little introduction. As you already said, Primal Druidry. I am a ritualist, strength trainer, druid of over 10 years. Very much into the fusion of scholarship and instinct, myth and ritual, all of the things. And vitalism is pretty near and dear to my heart. So take it away.
Sublimely based. I know you're kind of in the process of formalizing this currently, but as you are, where are you planning to go with this? You do some excellent long form writing, which is beginning to take off on Substack. You've been on
Thank you.
Instagram for a while. Of course, I know that you do live events and lessons, but I don't want to say brand. That sounds a little vulgar, but
Corporate.
what are you gunning for? Yeah, yeah, no. Just
Selling
uh
your soul already. I see how it is. Uh-huh. No, I
yeah.
love the question, and I think I get the gist of what you mean. I really appreciate the question. So basically, I've been using my voice in some way on and off for the past decade. My preference as a, dare I say, true druid, my preference is my heart is like kind of Luddite-ish. I really prefer to just like do in-person events. I love doing in-person rituals. I feel like my art is truly in physical like group ritual gatherings. That's what I love. I almost tied with that is just doing in-person workshops and classes and like teaching about my patron goddess, the Morrigan, or like specific facets of Druidry, specifically like ritual crafting. Because I'm very like we love the hands-on, the ordeal, the vital life force current, as we're talking about today. But that is, for better or worse, not really the world we live in. So I am currently making my best effort at focusing my energy on taking some version of that to become accessible online, for better or worse. Like it's really, I'll be so real. I don't like to do it, but it's where we are. And I really want to just flesh out, as you sort of said, like what is primal druidry? And I think in our discussion today, we'll definitely hit on that quite a bit. So hopefully that's an answer for now. But I love the fusion of the physicality, the strength training, like that is part of it. Like all of it goes together. So hopefully I think we'll hop into it.
The striving man does not want to go sit by himself and record it, but like this can't live
Right.
and die in your head. We've had conversations in real life. I've been to some of your
Yes.
events. This
Yeah.
definitely has to have a bit more of a platform. So, in that tradition, I am pushing you to keep on the writing and to develop your online presence because that is how it is going to get out of your very
The
well
cave.
connected out of the cave, but it's an expansive tunnel of caves underneath San Diego. I've been trapped there before. But
Thank you.
no, this definitely is how we're sort of pressing out. So, to that, actually, the next question is, what is your diagnosis of the wolf age? Kind of how did
Mm,
we end up where we are right now in terms of, I could just start down the list of like
yeah.
social discohesion, spiritualities wane, or maybe transforming into something more backwards, materialistic, this sort of walking backwards into AI with spiritual language, these very bizarre kind of cultural phenomena that we're seeing.
I mean, really, and I think you and I have definitely discussed this before, is like the list of things that it isn't is much shorter than the list of things that it is. So like we could hone in on any number of facets from like people. I think the quickest, most direct answer is people literally being divorced from their vitalism, from their life force, from that life force current in so many ways. From like, quite simply, people are SSRI'd out. They're doom scrolling, they're doing like all of the above, like any possible thing to divorce you from that current. To the point that, like, forgive me for getting right into it, but like people even consider it what like oppressive to have to work out, or not even to have to, but like the idea of it is somehow like, like I don't even know where to start because it's every possible front. I mean, the the food, the media, like all of it put together. Um, the medium is the message, as they say. So like if the result is people being completely divorced from anything resembling a life force, where people are, I don't even want to say weak physically, it's like this deadening of the spirit, it's this flattening, it's this sterilization. And something that I figured would come up later, but I'll just get into as well. And forgive me, as I told you before we started recording, I'm a little underslept, so if I'm talking really fast, that is why. um But this like sort of sterilization and flattening through, like well, you and I are both on Instagram, right? And like I'm obviously not Miss Modesty. I'm not Miss fucking pure. Sorry, I'm not Miss Puritan. Like I'm none of those things. But there is an overt sort of graphicness to, I don't even want to call it sexuality anymore, but just this using the lowest common denominator of like what's going to get eyeballs. And quite simply, it's TNA on social media, on Instagram, on whatever. And I'm not talking about sensuality. I'm not talking about like actual eroticism, which is very different. Which I'm looking back because the book that I was touching on for this is Cosmogonic Eros by Ludwig Klages, which is literally about real eroticism, like universe worlds creating the erotic currents. And I'm making a very long-winded statement to say like all of the above things that I just listed, especially this weird like pornifying of everything. Sorry, there's no other word for it, is just flattening the human life force. So does that make any sense at all?
It does actually, and it
Cool.
stays with a question I wanted to ask a little, like before you went on the Eros tangent, but
Yeah.
to what degree, because I'm sure that these are all components to one degree or another, but to what degree do you think that this deadening, that this uh, devitalization, de-eroticization is by design? Do you think that it's kind of the necessary forces of the market kind of acting against human health? They say you can't sell medicine to healthy people, so they kind of
Precisely.
need that, or is it a more of a political or a cultural power expression where they're trying to make people kind of these like the protagonist from Fight Club where he's just a zombie in the office? So maybe there's a control, or is this just sort of the consequences of choices over, the last 100 years?
I mean, that's a great question. And to a degree, it's all of the above. And I think the least, so I'm a fan, like as a druid, we love bardistry, right? We love bardcraft. And I promise this is related. I consider there's a modern stand up who I've talked about, I think to you, Tim Dillon, who I love, who occasionally I think makes a point to the effect of like the least, and I'm open to many theories, mind you. The easy answer is like, we're more easily controlled. We're more easily just spending money and consuming and staying in our non-houses and just like eating the like it's that it could simply just be corruption, right? It could simply just be, we're better consumers when we're deadened. It doesn't necessarily have to be some like evil grand design, but at the same time, I think everything you pointed to, it could very well be all of the above. Like why not everything?
Definitely. So it may be a matter of what you just say if you go at it from the media angle or the production angle. I think you could make a very good case that it is either more or less a conscious choice on the part of, power. Uh, so that's to my next question, not really related, so we'll do a bit of a jump. But you are facing FOID allegations. I know it has been pointed out that you are in fact a woman, and that
Yeah.
is that's always a problem on the online, right? That tends to get you into a little bit of trouble. So
Oh, it sure does. And I have fun with that, yeah.
concerning not just you particularly, although you have good experience to speak to it, but what
hmm
is your, and we've definitely talked about this
Oh yeah.
at lengths lately. But within both the reactionary spheres and what I'll just call heathendom or, the
hmm
pagan spheres, the man-woman dynamics are a terrible thing to behold. We've sort of
Oh yeah.
each settled on a very poor characterization of the other and just sort of run with it. And you are notoriously hard on the pick-me's, the people who kind of try to jump the fence and play the other
Oh
way.
yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
what is your answer to the sex problem? We're just gonna like,
Oh
I
yeah.
want
Yeah.
men and women don't like each other. We need to fix that, birth rates and all the
Yeah.
rest of it. What do you think?
Okay. So for one, I feel obligated to say, like, just so people understand, it's not that I am, because like we're addressing a lot, like the sex problem, the sort of impulse towards traditionalism or what have you. Like I am empathetic to essentially people being so overwhelmed by the horrors beyond our comprehension that they're reaching, into the past for something that does make sense. And for especially like we're pagan, right? So like there's aspects obviously of taking inspiration from the past, from things that worked before, and trying to apply them now. And that's not completely nonsensical. At the same time, one of these strengths of present, I'll just say serious paganism, like obviously paganism is a residual category and it can apply to any number of traditions. But one of the strengths of what I'll simply call serious paganism is that it can reckon with the world head on as it is now. So it does not behoove us to sort of use this sort of dead on arrival pretense of a world that we do not live in anymore, for better or worse. And that doesn't mean, completely letting go of that sort of foundation, because, like, plain and simple, I am a woman. I love being a woman. I think, like, there's a lot of peace that comes with just, embracing and enjoying what you are. And I very much, obviously do not hate men, like, love you guys, like, want to get along when we can. Um, but people bringing, this is going to sound very cliche, but just sort of bringing this de facto, like, hostility and baggage, to people who did not hurt you, and, continuing to make the problem worse. I like, and I wrote on this recently. I try to not get into my personal shit too much, but I will be so real. Like, I went on a very intentional, lengthy abstinence chapter, which I'm frankly actually still in, because to me, I would rather spiritually withdraw and work on myself and recalibrate my energy rather than take any kind of negative energy to people that don't deserve it, to men that don't deserve it. Um, so to answer all of this, I mean, I'm going to take it all the way back to the need for initiation, which is why I started practicing, as a pagan to begin with. You touch on this all the time in terms of, like, the specifically masculine need for that kind of experience, because women sort of have it baked in to a degree. Um, Let me sort of tie this in a little more closely, though. This, I mean, yeah, no big deal, right? Like, not a huge question at all.
Yeah,
But
no,
I,
I left that pretty broad, and I like that your response to the
all
Foyd
good.
allegations is, I am in fact the first person to ever take my own advice on the internet. So that's a pretty good Duncan return.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know, like, I definitely, I think I applied that. I can't remember what the hell I was talking about when I mentioned those allegations recently. I think it was to the effect of, like, I think it wouldn't kill us to simply slow down, take our time, and actually acknowledge each other's reservations towards each other. Because, again, forgive me for being a little personal, I'll be so real. I am bisexual. I have dated women. I understand. Okay. Like, I actually really understand men's issues with women. Um, so to the same degree that, like, women could afford to be a little more empathetic, I think we can slow down and actually try to listen to each other if we have, because ultimately, like, hating each other is antinatalist. Because what are we going to do? We're just going to not, everyone's going to become gay. Like, that's kind of, sorry, not really an option in my book. Like, part time on the weekends for sure, but, like, not as a permanent, that's not an answer. That's a dead end. And I'm not really interested in some kind of, like, forgive me, circle jerky cul-de-sac sort of opinion where it's just either men hyping each other up to the effect of isolating themselves from what will literally create families. Nor am I interested in this, like, you go girl, like, girl boss, like, just hate men thing forever. Because, again, like, that's cutting us off. Again, we are pagan. Like, the one of the many strengths and beauties in that is the full spectrum of experience. And I don't only work with goddesses. Like, I don't, like, there's an entire seasonality and spectrum to everything. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, again, to eroticism, genuinely, I'll circle back to that as well. For one, initiation. For two, embracing the life force current, because there is a sort of rigid self-hatred that comes with attacking the other. So if that sounds corny or cliche, bite me. Because, again, avoid allegations, but I guess I'll start there.
Well, I've actually been reliably informed that liking women is homosexual, and that
Yeah.
in order to ascend and be a real G, I have to, I don't know, have sports cars and like a bunch of hangarounds. I don't know.
Yes.
But
Suspiciously skinny, hairless, twink adjacent, which is
I,
totally not gay, by the way.
I
Not the
might
biggest
fall for
closet kiss.
the
Mhm.
suspiciously skinny allegations, but hairless definitely not.
Okay,
Uh,
that's different. That's different.
But it's interesting you mentioned life force in relation to this, because
Yes.
one post that came to mind a while ago that I did is about you've seen like the feminist like rage camps that they
Oh yeah.
do where like they
Oh
go out in
well.
the woods and they shriek and they hit things. I intuited or I felt a connection between that and like the alpha male boot camps, which I think is
Yeah.
very similar, adjacent to what you're riffing on right there. because those are products, because those are things that you can shill and,
Yeah,
they don't actually solve. It's sort of, it's therapies taken to its logical conclusion. It's a temporary feel good that you can infinitely exploit, hurting people for. The
keep
vital
talking,
force,
listening.
the frustration, the vital force, being given almost a 2 minutes hate, like that
Oh
you
yeah.
can feel confused, you can feel, okay, 99.99, I'll see you next month. Like
Oh
it,
yeah.
there's a kind of spiraling away, not only
I
from each
remember.
other's sexes in a dynamic, but even from a healthy balance. This is where I can start to go with Nietzsche. Yeah, Nietzsche. We'll get to Nietzsche. Young
Hmm.
in terms of like the anima, the animus. Like
Yeah.
the more divorced you are, not only from women as a class or as a part of the species, but also from your own feminine. And it
Yes.
becomes this very, or masculine, of course, in reverse. It gets sort of messier and weirder, but also easier to make products too, to sort of cater.
Oh, yeah, and like what I was kind of trying to search for, and I'll have to find it another time, is I recently finished a really just remarkable book called A Druid in Psychologist's Clothing, which is about what I consider a druidic ancestor, where the author was talking about, and I don't believe this was a direct quote from, so it's sort of a biography on E. Graham Howe, who was like actually a contemporary of Carl Jung, and very much, as the title suggests, like was a druid in psychologist's clothing. And the author sort of discusses like the what therapy has become, like the sort of like the rape of psyche, where we're sort of just spelunking through, that was not his exact word, but like spelunking through the wounds and looking at fixing instead of actually healing. And this sort of like just shallow commodification of psychology, of like the healing process, which originally should involve like artistry and actual healing and actual catharsis, into, as you're directly touching on, it's something that can be sold and exploited, and with, forgive me, the intention of, very often the intention or accidental habit of keeping people sick so they keep coming back. And that sort of like that entire shilling thing, it is the, if you want to talk, like, especially talking about young, like the shadow of actual initiation of actual rights to that effect. I think it's obviously disgusting. And just to put this out there, Tate is the most obvious closet case I've ever seen. That should be obvious.
I like finishing off with that. That's a fun,
Yeah,
like, just
yeah,
pin on the end of that.
yeah.
Um, it's interesting.
Correct.
You mentioned that it's almost an anti, or that therapy kind of becomes something which achieves the opposite of its stated goal.
Yeah.
Yes, you're kind of dredging up these emotions to the surface all the time, but you never quite expel them. You're not supposed to finish therapy, which is
Right.
wild.
Well, that kind of brings to mind, and like not directly, but that sort of tangentially like brings to mind this whole phenomena of like Disney adults, which I really like. I get it's easy to dunk on them on a shallow level, but I really mean it in the deepest, most spiritual way possible. I think that Disney adults are very much a case in point of what is profoundly wrong with everything that we're talking about. Like you'll see videos of these people that will collect water from the rides. And like you and I have a deep abiding love of Ireland, which I think we both consider to be the Holy Land. And like people, will collect. I have it on my altar right now. I gave you some. Like you collect water from holy wells. Like there's a deep connection to like the other world and the wellspring of potential and all this. And instead of like an actual connection to deep symbolism, like deep actual like world create, like all of everything that we can talk about separately, these people are doing that from, I mean, you can go off on this just as wittily as anyone, of the mouse, of just like commercialism, of materialism. And that's where what drives me wild is like, I wish, and I don't want to get into politics too much, but like people sort of needlessly separate ourselves too much, when I think plenty of us, at least in the pagan world, should be able to connect on like the evils of commercialist, like materialism, perverting this, like, for lack of a better word, like God-shaped hole. And to have your God-shaped hole filled by freaking Mickey Mouse, and like with people that hate you, like the utter contempt. And it's really not even just that. It's like the Disney adult thing, the Funko Pops, the Marvel. These people crave deep mythology, but they are filling it with essentially fast food. And I would like, regardless of your level of theism, right? Because, like, again, in Druidry, we have the cauldrons, and you're sort of born with them tipped one way or another. So that's a long way of saying, like, I think people have the level of belief or theism that they do or don't have. Like someone like Christopher Hitchens, born an atheist, born without the capacity for a divine experience. Someone like me or you, we are overflowing with it. That being said, there are so many different ways to connect with mythology in a way that doesn't rot you from the inside out. And you could take that as simply, if you don't have a strong level of theistic belief, like you can still go through a comparative mythology kind of approach with like Joseph Campbell. You could still get into Jung. You can still just kind of focus on that archetypal side of things and look at those patterns of storytelling as something meaningful without, a devotional relationship. Although personally, I will say I think it's hard to engage with that seriously without developing a level of like relationship to the divine. Or you can simply jump in with both feet and explore that like in full sincerity. I'm really good at ranting, sorry, so please stop me anytime.
You're good. I actually want to press down on this problem a little bit because I
Yeah,
agree with you that like the Funko Pop, the literal cargo cult around Disney and things like that. I think that part of the reason why it's so bad is actually that people recognize the spiritual poverty in the modern world, they actually feel it. And
yeah.
this is something that both of us have had direct experiences with recently. My orthobro piece got me into some trouble, but part of
Uh-huh.
that issue too is when people actually do feel the plastic crack just isn't cutting it anymore, and they go to an
Yeah.
actual religious institution, be it a Protestant, an Orthodox, a Catholic, or I mean, I haven't been to a Buddhist temple, so I can't say if they're woke too, but like you go and you sit down in the pew or wherever in the church, and it's more of the same. The religious
Yes.
institutions have been hollowed out. It's the same social gospel rhetoric.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm kind of not surprised they end up like Disney or something, because that's kind of the bottom of the drain where they
Yeah.
end up, because even what are supposed to be serious, sincere religious institutions are so often rotted through. And to your point about the cauldrons tipping differently, people have different degrees of this.
Mhm.
We've both said before that, not everybody's supposed to be a priest. We're not all supposed to be so well read
Yep.
in all of this. You're supposed to have your wise person that you can go to kind
Mhm.
of walk you through this. This is why a
Mhm.
clergy is actually, I think, a good thing. You need people that
Mhm.
are more versed in the material and able to kind of help people that just want to get through their day,
Yeah.
not enter this sort of spiritual despondency.
And that's fine. Yeah.
But we don't have, well, we do. We found some very niche circles where we're able to accomplish that, and we're certainly trying to build it ourselves to the degree we
Yeah.
can. But I think that a big part of the diagnosis here is that there is nowhere for the normal uninitiated person to turn.
Yes.
So whatever, they find that kind of sort of scratches the itch, they will cling to for dear life. And you have this in
Yeah.
politics, which is, always a debased form of spirituality, but you have it in consumer goods, you have it. I was about to say celebrities, but honestly, I don't think the cult of celebrities is really around the way it was even 20 years ago. Like,
That's
I think
fair.
the internet's kind of destroyed that. COVID definitely did, because we found out, oh, they're all, gooners on Twitter. So we just sort of dropped that.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Indeed.
Pagan imperial vitalism. It's a
Yes.
deeply rooted, there's a sex joke in there. I'll let people figure it out. But
The fact
which
that
which
can I
took me
can I
way too long.
I was going to say, not to throw you under the bus, but it made me laugh so hard when it wasn't even months later, because we've been calling it as an inside joke PIV for what, like 2 years, if not
Something
more.
like, yeah.
And it took you, I think, the entire 2 years for it to get the joke,
Okay,
which God bless you for that.
I feel the need now to defend myself, so I do have to explain the joke.
That's
Uh,
okay.
PIV is penis in vagina, as in like standard procreative sex.
Duh. Duh.
But the thing
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
I am the god's straightest, whitest soldier. So to my mind, that's just sex. I've never heard that acronym. I had no reason to have it.
Precious.
So
Yeah.
I really had to stew for a little while before it occurred to me what you were doing there with the double entendre. But I am a Garthan. I don't have vocabulary for this weird stuff.
Okay, so and this is like to it genuinely is to your credit, and I've when I talk about you to other people, and this is with all love and respect. I think you are the only, you might well be the only true traditionalist type, because like as we get into it, like part of my issue with the tradcon thing, as I said in the beginning, I have full empathy for people who are reaching for that sincerely, and I think like you are such a sincere person. My issue is when people are like using the pretense of it to be complete and utter degenerates behind the scenes. Like it's just window dressing. It's an overly aspirational standard that even they themselves cannot reach. And they will call you or I or whoever a degenerate all day long for simply openly going, nah, I'm not going to make the pretense of pretending to be some like, you know, whoever next door, but here's my real convictions, here's my real integrity. I don't have to fake it, to hold those real convictions. But you genuinely are, that kind of person with full sincerity, which is something I find very endearing and respectable about you. But I'll let you set that one up, actually.
So I wanted to actually take this because it is a funny joke, and it's even funnier that I had to sit on it for like a year
two
before I got
years
it.
2 years.
2 years. Shush.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it also does have a bit more of a serious undertone to it. So each one, pagan, imperial, and vital, is something that you can speak to at length. Pagan, imperial, and vital. Why? And this is sort of the setup. You can tell this was the beginning of the interview once upon a time. Why
Mhm.
paganism as opposed to tradcath or, Orthodox or something? What specifically about paganism do you think addresses these problems so well?
Quite simply and the most directly, serious paganism is a religion not just of the earth, but for the earth. The most generous, kindest statement that I could make about serious Christianity is that it is a religion for heaven. It is about reaching heaven, which is very different than aspiring to reach Valhalla. Like that is it's a very different aim, form, and function. Christianity is it at best kind of takes too much of a good thing and dials it up. I use the term overly aspirational. It is so divorced from the human life force, from that life force current, from vitality, and it glorifies martyrdom, virginity in every sense, like this over commitment to like purity in an inhuman way, which again, like I have nothing bad to say against anyone who like if you simply are sincerely a modest person, if you're sincerely traditional, if you're sincerely any of these things, then bless you and I hope you find peace and happiness because you're going to need it. But that's not the world we live in. Um and I will say especially like as a druid, my patron goddess literally gave a prophecy speaking to the exact times that we're in, where she says, we live in a time without modesty. Everyone is out for each other's throats. Everyone, like, down to the specific perversities like of the modern age, but we are equipped for that in every sense of the word. And to just speak for my own path a little bit, but I think there is overlap across pagan traditions. um, there is more of an emphasis on sovereignty, on honor, on dignity, on hospitality, not so much on being a martyr, which again, like, it's very easy to take pot shots at Christianity. I've done it before, but I really try to not, I don't wish to do it in like a crass or shallow fashion because I know, like, I know and love many Christians. I think there is some sincere beauty to a lot of it. And I understand the appeal, especially when, as you said, not everyone is built to be priesthood. Like some people are going to get so beat down by the horrors of life that they will reach for that kind of gentle, unconditional love. But some of us are built to reckon with life as it is. And as you called it, the wolf age, the serious pagan currents, for me, Druidry, for you, more Sunnatru, heathenry, for some people, more Hellenic type paganism, whatever, you're pulling from or embodying, there is more of a focus on sovereignty and that sort of, that real reckoning. So I'll let you kind of hop in from there.
Well, actually, I'm just going to cruise right along because that is a
Yeah.
beautiful transition into imperial. So,
Yeah.
what I drew from this is sort of Nietzschean philosophy, will to power. Uh, just carrying right on from what you said there, because that was perfect. What is the pagan mindset towards
Mhm.
this world? What would you speak to in terms of that imperial mindset? How does one press their will out into the world if they're going to take pagan imperial vitalism seriously?
Embodiment, like that's really the quickest thing, is because like I think you sort of, when we were going over the basic outline for what we want to talk about, the sort of like role of politics or what have you, at the end of the day, the most direct, sincere, least waste of time is really just embodying your values rather than like endlessly just hate tweeting and like reacting and knee jerking against what we don't believe in. The quickest way is, to touch on Nietzsche, To touch on again that sort of erotic current of like simply being an alive, hopefully sentient, red blooded person in a world full of the opposite, like refusing to eat the bugs, not to sound corny, but like just going to the like being healthy. Like the fact that that is such a statement at this point. For one, though, as a simple is not always easy, it does make it really easy. Like what to do and what not to do are pretty clearly delineated. So that doesn't mean that we can save the entire world by doing so, but you can save your own world, I think.
Well said. So I want to open it up a bit to that erotic and sort of embodied segment. So I have written here the immediate and the sensual, not only sexually but energetically. And I scribbled
Yeah.
in notes underneath, flirt with life and it will flirt back. People are not wrong to feel beaten down by the way things are.
Right.
There's a lot of very real, very debilitating conditions that we're operating under. However, what would you say in terms of a mindset shift helps overcome things like this? Because you've been through the ringer, I've been through.
Oh
We've
yeah.
both had our share and of time in the wolf age, like in the phalanx.
Oh
What
yeah.
would you advise people on to encounter that Eros? And so we had a bit of a jump cut there, just Zoom cutting us short, but we're picking it back up at vitalism, Eros, and physicality. Awen?
Yes. So actually close. Forgive me for a slight related tangent. Earlier on, I mentioned the sort of like divorce from the life force and the sort of like we talked about shilling. So forgive me a slight deviation, but it's related. I was looking for a quote from a Druid and psychologist clothing where they talk about, the author says that what often now passes as psychotherapy is itself a repetition of the event that strips psyche of her divinity. It's not a form of healing, rather, it is an inspection of a gaping wound where both therapist and patient look into an abyss, the space where Psyche's heart once was, the place where Nuvra was once summoned, only to see as if in a mirror faces with no eyes, sockets that stare into an abyss. How's Druidry, which wears the clothing of psychology, the symptom itself, the place where Awen was previously acknowledged as the metaphysical foundation for healing, works through the abyss as a means to breathe life into it. So, breathing that life through the abyss and that Awen, like that quote was sticking in my mind. So I had to start it off with that. But vitalism, yeah.
Well, carrying it from there, because I think that's actually a good segue. If the very sterile processes, be it entertainment or even medicine and psychology,
Mhm.
are stripping us of that vitality or maybe suppressing it, you talked about embodied living already as a way to kind of
Yeah.
bring it back. But where I was beginning to push or to ask questions was what does it look like as an internal psychological change in your experience to
Mm, yes.
catalyze that change? How do you, like a person that's in the same situation, be it it's a bad job or a relationship they're struggling to get into or
Mhm.
out of, the various like battles that we find ourselves in, what is the sea change inside of a person's mindset that helps them to sort of do that alchemy, to turn it into something that they're able to attack rather than sort of be victimized by?
So, to the effect of, how I was saying that, serious paganism, especially Druidry, is uniquely equipped to handle the sort of like wolf age that we are living in. Ordeal is what turns the cauldrons. Like from the sacred poetry that we do have that I take a lot of inspiration from, you look at something like the Cauldron of Poesy, where it talks about the sort of psychosomatic, spiritual, physical, like there is no interruption between these things in Druidry specifically. But when we're talking about the cauldrons and those portals to greater capability, among many other things, what turns them is not, it's really anything but staying in the armchair. It's anything but staying at home and being an ascetic and shutting yourself out from life. It's you are so much better off, going on a bender, getting heartbroken, like whatever it is. Not saying that that's a great way to live 100% of the time, but that specifically an embrace of ordeal and embrace that life is going to be hard sometimes is part of what amplifies your capability to deal with it. And specifically, when you look at the important experiences within Druidry, what's called Imrama or sea journey, that's another way to talk about that embrace of ordeal, because what it really means is traveling to the other world, traveling to that place where you can create change. And that is very often going to be in, essentially the abyss, like whatever you want to call it, whatever your version of the depths or despair or what have you. Um, Obviously, it's very easy to wax poetic about it when you're not in it. When you're in it, it just sucks. And I talk about this with other spiritual friends all the time, where it's like, this stuff, there's a beauty and there's a poetry to it, and that quote especially I found very poetic. But it has to be practical for when things just suck and they don't feel glamorous and they don't feel like, oh, I'm this sexy witch, I'm whatever, for me at least, whatever. um but it's a combination of that embrace of ordeal and seeing it as ordeal, mind you, and not like, oh, this is happening to me, I'm fucking put upon, the world hates. It's not that. It's that innate witchy practitioner perspective of like, this is alchemy, this is fuel, this is one way or another. I'm going to turn myself from the raw materials of like, the beginning stages of alchemy eventually into whatever your version of gold is. But you have to, there's nothing else for it. You have to see, you have to embrace it.
I
Yeah.
actually just turned in my notes here back a few pages because to this point that you're making, I was inspired or felt prompted to write a couple pages a few days ago, contrasting what a fellow Substack author, Serena Butler, has done some excellent sort of heathen psychological, very, very grounded scientific writing in the heathen realm, what she calls manifestation Krieg, sort of this, the imposition upon us by, again, demoralizing elements, but also in return the pressing out of the will in response to it. And I
Mhm.
was writing contrasting that idea with the Christian concept of spiritual warfare. Because I do
Mm,
have actually a couple of books on the Catholic, at least, interpretation of spiritual warfare. And that very much is what you're sort of speaking to in that like I am set upon. These things are
yeah.
happening, things are happening to me. They're specifically, I think the phrasing would be like devices formed against me that I might not prosper or something. If I
Right.
was to sort of,
Right.
and my writing
Awesome.
about that was that the Jotnar are not out to get you. There's not some kind of
Right.
conspiracy to derail you in the spiritual realm, at least. These are just
Mm,
kind of forces of entropy that exist, and they'll be in
yes.
your way, and so that kind of alchematizing the
Alchemizing. Yeah.
alchemizing of that experience from adversarial
Hmm.
to ordeal is very important. That kind of, I've written in notebooks before, like, if you view life as a trail, then the path will unfold in front of you. If you view it as a war, then enemies will appear everywhere. And
Yes.
that's a headspace that I regularly fall into and have to remind myself of. But I really think that recontextualizing these struggles as rather than being a confrontational, being a process is very important. It's something that we're deeply lacking.
Yeah, and like that, I love, love, love that sort of sentiment from you. And that sort of reminds me of like a classic crucial aspect of the Druidic perspective is that we don't exist in a vacuum. Like physicality and spirituality are not separate. Like I'm not separate from like we are in relationship to all life at all times, which ties into the value of hospitality, meaning I uphold my end of acting as honorably as I can in relation to simply what exists. And to, as you're very wisely saying, like the Jotun, the Favora, the Fomorians, like whatever you want to call in ADF, they'll call them the outdwellers, just the beings of chaos or entropy or what have you. That is just part of life. That is just you cannot, and this is innate to any understanding of ritual, is like with you need just enough chaos to create change, to create magic. Without it, with too much structure, nothing changes. Magic is impossible. So that's what we're doing as practitioners, is kind of riding that lightning and like standing in the eye of that storm and meet somehow mediating it. And that is the innate challenge of any practitioner. Obviously there's a difference between pagan and witch. In Druidry, those things are fused. So if you take it seriously, but anyways, I think the perspective not only of embracing ordeal, but that directly ties into the hospitality aspect, the relationship aspect, where you don't get to just count yourself out. You don't get to divorce yourself in that way. So not to just constantly toot the horn of like what I personally care about, but this is why I love Druidry so much, is I think it's uniquely practical. Like there is that spiritual depth, but at the same time, it's a tool set, it's a methodology. It's again like to face the world as it is. So yeah.
Excuse me. And I can relate to that very strongly as well. You've read the Havamal, of course. It's very practical advice. I mean, there is a bit of a more esoteric portion at the end, and certainly if you pair it with the Voluspa, it has a bit of a cosmology as well. But ultimately,
Mhm.
yeah, it's largely conduct. It's hospitality. It's very pragmatic approaches to like don't be excessive in drink, don't be excessive in lovemaking. You and I
Don't
like
stick it in
the
crazy.
don't say anything
Uh-huh.
crazy. And what's even better is that all of these are not commandments. They're rather, here's a
Right.
time where I did, and here's how I got bit for it. Like the All Father arrived at a lot of his wisdom through initiations and rituals, but he came to a
Mhm.
lot of his wisdom through plain old, figuring it out the
Experience.
hard way. Yeah. And
Experience. And that's yeah, that's what we're talking about for sure.
yet you need the storm. All right, let me backtrack that for a second. You don't build ships to stay in port, and you need storms to know that the ship is built well.
Precisely. And this is what I find so funny is like to sort of touch on and riff on the overlap that occasionally I can find with my Christian kindreds, as it were, is like when you look at even a story like Genesis, like the Garden of Eden, it's extremely telling people's reaction to that, what they think is happening there. Because the average like common response is like, oh, humans were sinful, so we were cast out, and it's like, no, no, no. Look at that as a practitioner. Look at that as someone who's responsible for yourself. Take some fucking sovereignty. Sorry, take some accountability for yourself, and really look at that. What's really happening there is Eden is the womb. You're a fetus. You're not a real person. Everything is provided for you. You're at most a baby. You don't have to think, you don't have to pay your own bills. It's just perfectly peaceful. And again, with that, like nothing ever changes. There's no potential for growth until finally, you know, the light bringer, whatever truth comes along. And suddenly, what people view as, oh, they're being cast out and cursed for being sinful. It's like, no, 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 you're growing up. Go face the music. Go be an adult. And that point of like we as humans, and mind you, again, not Christian, not Jewish, not any of these things. I look at everything as comparative mythology and looking at it as sacred truth, as I look at any mythology. Um, the idea that humans cannot go back to Eden until after we've been initiated, until after death, that is that story to me is so 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 obvious for those with eyes to see it, that it really does not have to be seen as this. But again, it's telling for people to look at the literal keys to your own illumination and go, oh, we're just evil, we're being put upon, we're being afflicted. It's like, no, stand up, look at, like, take some accountability, look at what life really is, because we're literally set out to go live life on earth. And even like I have such a profound love for, like, just as a mythic figure for Cain as like the first sentient person. And I won't go down this rabbit hole too much because I know you are not over fond of the desert religions. But, there is a lesson, however you view it as simply mythology or whatever, there is a lesson there in human sovereignty. And, our relationship to that is telling of our nature. I think I'll leave it at that for now to not drive you crazy.
No, I appreciate that, but I also know that like the Bible is a cornerstone of Western literature. Like
Right,
I'm not one of those heathens that wants to throw the baby out with the bathwater in regards to the impact it's had. Like we have Milton because we have the Bible. We have
right.
Gothic architect. Like I can appreciate it for a period of history and for a social technology that has been here for a very long time. And I do
Mhm.
think it's a very profound piece of writing. It's just not native. It's not ours, which
Literally.
that's a whole separate episode. I'm sure we could go on
Oh,
for
yeah.
hours about that, but
Oh, yeah.
um, I do want to jump on one thing that you said at the beginning of the Eden thing. You said, nothing
Mhm.
changes in the womb. Is the nothing ever happens meme a pre initiatic attitude? Is
Oh,
these are these
yeah.
people sitting around waiting for their initiation because nothing ever happens? They insist nothing ever happens.
Oh, this is like you're unlocking such like a profound level of like schizo mythology right now. That's such a good point. You need to go hard on this. This is like the chud evolution of like spiritual progression. There's probably a whole I think you just tapped in on something because,
Well,
like,
I climbed the
yeah.
mountain. I climbed the mountain to your cave with this question, and I'm putting it to you, Raven
Oh
Witch.
man.
Is the nothing ever happens crowd a pre-initiatic state of mind?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And they need to eat the apple, as it were. And mind you, the apple is not strictly Abrahamic. You know this. Like within the heathen mythology, like
It's
what the
explicitly not an
apples
apple in the Bible. That's
correct.
not an apple.
Hmm. Correct. And but it is explicitly an apple, I believe, in the Nordic and also in the Celtic. I could be vastly mistaken. That is like the fruit of immortality or creation in other myths.
I
Um,
am going to
yeah.
make the meme that is nothing ever happens, and then it's like the Valkyrie giving him an apple and just not explaining.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And the not explaining part is very important. And that's like to sort of just circle on this whole theme, there is a lost appreciation for mystery. And like in the same vein of like, like genuine eroticism. And despite I think I kvetched to you a little bit of like this sort of, I love German culture, but like the classically German philosophical long-windedness, where I'm like, wow, I love what this guy is saying in Cosmogonic Eros. I don't love how he's saying it. I don't love the single sentence run on multiple paragraphs where it's all the same sentence. What the hell was I talking about? Christ. Um,
You just
um,
went
um,
and did it
um.
to yourself. That was
Yeah,
a
God,
German
I did it to
philosophical run-on.
myself. I'm actually very guilty of it too. So let that be a lesson. Um,
You became that which you sought to destroy.
oh yeah, classic human hubris. No, it was the vitality. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me.
Born
Oh
to
damn, I
recite
don't.
massive tracts of poetry from memory, forced to read German literature.
Yeah, God. Oh man, it's gonna bug me. Oh, yes. Now it comes back to me. So in that sort of like in the value of mystery, Claudius in Cosmogonic Eros talks about how eroticism is different. It is not simply like the drive to procreate. That is very different. And like especially he talks about the difference in the state of ecstasy. And I'm very physical, sorry. The literally the what sets apart that erotic current is it is a state of ecstasy. It's not about the satisfaction of a drive, that they're very different things. And that is such a good point. And it especially speaks to in magic, in ritual, I think it's not even a joke, but I've joked before that it's all sex and death. And that state of eroticism, that's what stepping into a trance state really is. And to me, that directly connects to that openness to mystery. I don't want to say detachment from, but the kind of detachment from satisfaction. It's not about that. It's not about, forgive me, simply getting off. It's not about instant gratification. It's not about like that tangible, I get something. It's I experience something. I am in relationship to the divine. And like even though Claudius, like he differentiates, the drive for procreation from eroticism, I would say as a practitioner, as a witch, as a druid, I mean, that life force current, that sexual vital current, very much is in the flow of creation. So if you like, and we can make that like the fundamental of fertility and magic, like it can be as literal or as non-literal as people are particularly ready for at whatever stage in their life. But I think all of this, just having cultivating your capability for even appreciating these things is so massive. And especially when we talk about like what do we do in the face of these things, the fact that you and I can even sit here and have this conversation and hone the capacity for these things that most people don't even know exists anymore and don't have the capacity for. And I do not care how simple it sounds. This is like talk about memes, like the midwit, obviously in the middle, the high IQ, the caveman, whatever, are on the same footing. What you can do is literally eat real food, work out, get laid, like just really return to monkey a little bit. And that will kind of knock some of that body wisdom, that vitality back into you if you possibly can.
My favorite meme to come out of exactly that vein is the guy doing a long screed about like, I can't believe it's not meat. And then a person just comments, Grug thinks this means you bad hunter.
Real, real, real.
Like, yes, the philosophy boils down to I think you would suck in the wild, and that's basically all
Yeah.
I need to know.
Yeah. Because what are you going to do? Right. Like, because obviously I get it. there's so many points, and I know I'm hopping around a lot, so please reharness as you see fit, but like, I get it. It's tough dating women. It's tough dating men. It's tough, period. We're in the trenches. But ultimately, and please do not take this as pessimism for me, unless you're about to just yourself, what are we going to do about it? Because that's not an option. I'm not telling people to go yourself. I'm saying that's not an option. So what the fuck are we going to do? Like, you simply have to trek it out, embrace it, like embrace the suck and hone yourself as much as you possibly can. Because to throw one more druidic something I got from Druidry before handing it off to you is like, capability is a sacred duty to us that is repeated over and over in the myths, in the poetry, and just in what we take from all of the lore. How we build our connection to the gods is our real life skills. It's not, and mind you, I don't want to put down, I'm a huge believer in meditation, in trance. Like, there's a lot of like more mental, spiritual aspects for me. But, like, even people who are not necessarily druids, because I get that the tradition at this point is like me and four guys with white hair, like three of whom I'm friends with, two of whom I probably have beef with for some reason. But even if you're not a druid and you're aware of paganism, the holiday Lunasa, like that whole story speaks to, you know, the god Elu, who had divinity in him, who like was equal parts, chaos being Fomorian and also Tuatha De Danann, like the more ordered, beautiful, radiant, whatever gods. He still had to earn his place among the gods. He still had to earn his rank with the Tuatha De Danann, and he did that by literally being a master of all skills. So that's a less, like, as you sort of said, we don't have a 10 commandments. We don't have a broken down, like, here's what you have to do. We're told through example, through lessons, hey, this is what earns you honor. This is what earns your place in divinity. This is your portal to the gods, even if you already are one, by the way, even if you already have that divine blood, however you want to square that, you have to earn it. And I love the practicality of like, even the gods have to go learn blacksmithing and how to fight and how to think and like all these different skills. So to treat what you can do in the day-to-day life as a portal to divinity is a complete game changer.
Not only schizos like you and I, but even normal people are increasingly over politics as a
Oh
vehicle
yeah.
for not just change, but like social engagement. Like through
Yeah.
the aughts and the 2010s, especially, I think politics really subsumed people's personalities, and it really was
Oh
the
yeah.
the prism through which we communicated. It's
Yeah.
still residually the situation, I think, mostly because it's been the state of affairs for so long.
Yeah.
But I hear lots of post politics, post, modernism, post. Um, what does it look like to see culture, to see our, say, the traditions, the stories and the engagement, and even the spiritual practices from a higher spiritual and existential vantage point? Once you're out from sort of the ugly underbelly of bickering and cliques that we have, say, on social media, whatever passes for political or religious spheres, with the God-shaped hole, like you said, in people, they're filling with Funko Pops and
Michael
uh,
Mouse.
Michael Mouse, Michael the Rat. Nicknames are for friends, and Michael the Rat's no friend of mine.
I was waiting for that. Yeah.
Um, or even with like Tradcath Instagram or something. Do you think that people are kind of haphazardly trying to make their way back to something more sincere? Do you think that we've moved beyond the political as like a stand-in for culture and personality?
An impulse in that direction, which you were like very perceptively like picking up on. What I find kind of amusing sometimes when I engage in the masochistic practice of going through people's comment sections, which I know much better than, but I still do sometimes, is you see people who very much are, and I'm not getting into this excessively, but like they're very clearly quite left of center, as it were. But even people of that ilk are, making fun of the kind of like militant cancel culture that was so rampant not even that long ago. They're, talking about how insufferable, quote, those people are. And I'm like, babe, you are those people. What are you talking about? But there's, I think, a growing recognition of like, this is not how you reach people. And the people who are still stuck in that way of thinking, that's a separate conversation. People who are still either stuck or committed to that are only getting nastier, more aggressive, more hostile. Partially because I think they know that they're losing ground, they're losing power. And so the community aspect, there's so many facets to it. But something that I was thinking when I was like, okay, what is the role of all this in relation to what we're talking about? Something that I think about with all this stuff, like, and I'm a ranter as well, so I'll have to clean this up a little bit. Um, I have a particular distaste for uh, fake religious people who use religion of whatever kind as political window dressing for their existing politics to make themselves seem more sanctimonious, righteous, pure, what have you. I think it's a deep disservice to real relationship to divinity. I think it's a deep disservice to the very real political convictions that you can have. I think whatever you are, you should just be the most honorable version of that. But in light of all that, and as someone who like this is a, I'm doing it, I'm doing the German thing. As someone that does not like religion to be an extension of politics, because I think that's a disservice to the magic, we get to choose what we ally with people on. We get to choose what we form those sort of tribal connections on, because that's, again, another strength of serious paganism is that there's an innate recognition that ideologically, culturally, what have you, we are not all the same. We are not all doing the same things. It's simply impossible. Like put like myself next to a Christian. I'm clearly not doing the same thing spiritually as like I hate that idea of like we're all just it's all just different ways up the tree. No, it is not. No, it is not. I'm trying to do other stuff to that tree. You guys are trying to get to heaven. It is not the same. So, anyways, when we think about what we want to ally and form those kind of connections on, for me personally, I know what I value. I know what I value in other people. And it's again like I want to see people who are prioritizing what can they do in their own life and not being psychos to people for not having the exact same opinion on like I don't know the Mises caucus or something. Like I don't I don't even care. Yeah, I'll stop myself there for now.
I'm actually very much looking forward to the days where we can have entire wars over a single sentence in the Edda.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. And that's a fun here. Let me just add this too, because I can't shut up. Were some of the people, these Ortho bros that were like foaming at the mouth going after you because they can't look in the goddamn mirror when you were actually quite generous to them, might I add. You could have been a lot meaner. Um, I think they want friends. I think people are lonely. They want serious intellectual and spiritual stimulation, and they keep trying to meet that need by by fighting with people. And it's like, babe, we probably if you can just accept that I have the same freedom of religion and freedom of speech as you do and stop foaming at the mouth for 5 seconds, because by the way, acting like a hostile freak is not how you proselytize effectively. It actually just puts me off even more, where I'm like, wow, I'm never going near whatever you got going on, because holy shit, there's something wrong with you. um if people could just treat it as like, let's have a dialectic or conversation, um, we'd have at least a lot more fun. But this is again like this is kind of their issue. Their predisposition to asceticism takes them out of like I feel like empathy has been so ruined as a term, but like, I never expect to agree with anyone on anything, and I'm de facto okay with that. So I feel like I go into discussions and conversations, whether it's politics, religion, what have you, fully just like, okay, like let me just learn about this person as an avatar of whatever the hell they're serving, and I'll see where, if anywhere, we can overlap and be productive somehow. Yeah.
So we've started to talk a little bit about going forward and kind of what the future holds. We've talked a little bit
Yes.
about how we're in some kind of post-political period where, like you said, the
Mhm.
what has been the cultural hegemon is clearly like the sick man of Europe, to borrow an expression from World War One. Like this is just
Mhm.
very clearly not the power structure that is going to be here in 20 years or less.
Yeah.
What do you think the pagan, vital, blonde model on the yacht
The
posting
blonde beast.
the blonde
Hmm.
beast side of social media, what does that portend? Do you think that there's going to be a broader social influence from this sort of corner of things out into the culture? And if so, is there going to be sort of a necessary dilution? Like as we go
Mm.
out from the schizo mountaintops, do you expect this to kind of settle into the culture the same way a lot of the left-wing stuff did in, say, like 2011, 12?
I think that's a great question. And it kind of, in both cases, it sort of already is like yes and yes. Because what I find so funny, and I'm not picking on them, let me start at the beginning of this. Yes and yes, in the sense of like, to be a little snobby for a second, and I'm saying this a little bit tongue in cheek, that like pagan blonde beast, ubermensch, like will to power, like that very niche and vitalist, just shamelessly uh vital kind of approach. We are the most highly concentrated version of that energy. And whatever beauty may be in the various Christian traditions, I think it's safe to say it is simply not a warrior religion. It's just not. You can dress it up however you want. It is a religion for heaven. It's about martyrdom. It's about virginity. It's about meekness. They can say whatever the hell they want. It's not a warrior religion. We are. We very much are. Um, for me, it's coming more from a place of like priesthood that incorporates that warlike aspect. But, anyways, we are the most highly concentrated versions of that. So, these serious pagans of the world right now, I think, are making serious waves in culture in terms of like what we're sort of putting out into the sphere. And that is already being picked up on and, for better or worse, diluted in various ways because not everyone is for it. Not everyone can ride that wave. Not everyone can harness that. Not everyone is built for it quite like that. But you see it. What makes me kind of just smile is you see it with these people that are trying to do this like muscular Christianity thing because I see that as like that is your blood memory speaking out in spite of the trappings that you have wrapped yourself up in for whatever reason. Um, and you see it in terms of like, I'll just say broadly, like people who care about the West and like preserving the West and continuing it into the future. A lot of them are they at least identify as Christian, but I find it very funny because they are almost in spite of themselves intuitively picking up on these very pagan, ubermenschy kind of themes. So they can call it whatever they want. I'm not here to hate per se. But I think all of that is already happening.
Sweet. Excellent. Well,
Mhm.
that's about all I have for you, and it looks like we're a couple minutes out. So, do you have any tangents or thoughts you want to fire off
Oh,
in the 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes
oh,
we have left? So, I will open up the floor to you at this point.
fantastic. Great question. Let me see if there's anything Oh, yeah. Let me just get in on this. Let me just go in on the trads for a fucking second because I planned on doing that. So, let me see how much I can squeeze into 5 minutes. Like I said, sincerity is one thing, you're fine. But this like fake, overly aspirational, when we were originally touching on the idea of like why not tradcon, I have the list of reasons that I have like could span like I need to just write more. So I spent half of this morning like trying to find this very specific Nietzsche quote, which I got help from a few different sources tracking down, basically to the effect of like I still didn't find the exact quote, but basically, I believe it's from Genealogy of Morals or Beyond Good and Evil, where he's talking about people that are stuck looking in the past, that they're essentially cowards because they're not living in the present, they're not looking to the future. And it's a form of cowardice. But my issue with a lot of this like tradcon stuff is for one, apart from you're like the only sincere one in the world. Everyone, almost damn near everyone else, unless you have some kind of other brother out there, if they are really keeping their word, it's because they haven't had the chance to be degenerates. It's because they haven't had the opportunity and they don't have the options. The ones who have the options, I can guarantee you, and I'm not going to get into it. I've written on this on my Substack. Every single one of them that I've ever encountered who's talking this big trad macho man game online is in my DMs asking to be stepped on, calling me mommy. They are full of shit. They are full of shit in such a profound way. And the only ones who are upholding it are doing so because they don't have any other options. So my thing is, what if we cut the shit? What if we stopped trying to be caricatures and we just had integrity and we just let the points be the points? Because I can sit here, obviously not perfectly modest, obviously not pretending to be some virgin in a wheat field, and still have the convictions that I do from the druidic value of real life, from real ordeal, from, not making this overly aspirational, pretentious claim that only serves to what, like, make me look more righteous than thou, and like to basically manipulate people into thinking I'm some like two-dimensional character. I don't, forgive me for possibly sounding sanctimonious on my end, but Druidry is also so heavily predicated on truth that the idea of even doing that really chafes on me. I find it very distasteful. Um, so I would like to just see people. It's like right wing identitarianism. It's right wing virtue signaling. Like, people who are right of center very often, correctly so, will criticize the virtue signaling and the chest thumping on the left, but they do the same thing very often in their own capacity. And I'm like, what if we just stop doing that? You can actually have your morals, have your convictions, and have even more integrity by not pretending to be something that you're not. Because the other issue there is it puts the expectation on being this caricature instead of doing the damn work. We have so much to do. We have enough to focus on. It's a distraction and it is destructive to do this, like, when it devolves into, oh, women with tattoos. Oh, women with tattoos are what's wrong with you? We have so many bigger fish to fry, and you people are spurging out about women with tattoos. Like, this is where so many of the Christians are not going to make it. Sorry, this is why we're better. If you've made it this far, I think I can cut the shit. This is why we're better. So hope, and I really, really, it just makes me kind of laugh to see that kind of stuff, in pagan circles where I'm like, I think you're lost, you absolute child. Like, look at Queen Maeve, look at the Morrigan, look at the actual figures of like divine femininity. It's not this watered down. Like, if you're looking for Mary, go to church. That's not what we're doing here. Like, that's even Bridget, who people like water down into this like meek mother, whatever. He went through hell and back and alchemized, her own grief, her own violation, and turned it into sovereignty in her own right. So, like, if I see people doing that, on these right wing pagan spheres, I'm not only laughing at you, but I'm about to dress you down with receipts because you're lost. I'll leave it at that. You're lost. So that was my only other tangent that I wanted to go on.
That's a pretty solid slam dunk. I think we should probably leave it there.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. So shamelessly, I'll just say you can find me on Substack. You can find me on YouTube, even though many of my videos are years apart because I'm a Luddite and I hate recording. But Bran, you should promote your own stuff. What are you doing?
Well, I imagine if folks are watching this, they're probably familiar. I am on YouTube, I am on Substack, I'm on Instagram under Sunnatru. Yes, as you continue putting things out, folks, pay attention because I will be restacking and pointing because I'm going to keep the pressure on you, Awen, to keep developing Primal
Thank you.
Druidry and to get it out there. So,
Thank you.
uh, thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, this is a really great discussion. A lot of tangents, a lot of umming, a lot of technical
Skin
difficulties,
sewing.
but that's right. Couple just a couple of true Hyperboreans going off for a little while.
I love to see it. And one day, hopefully, you kind of do your own flexing in one of our future conversations. But thank you for having me. Thank you for your hospitality. I appreciate you so much. And I hope Sunhearth continues to blossom and fruit and grow in power. So,
Thank you, Owen. Go with the gods.
yeah.